Happy Saturday, everyone. We are back. Oh, I hear a little bit of an echo. Not sure where that's coming from. But we are back with another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda show. I am happy to be here again, along with my amazing co host. And we have got a great show. We're going to have a great conversation today. Today's show, we're going to talk about, do you know your value? Do you know your value? So I want to dive into, how do you determine your value and your worth? And not only that, but how do you go about the process of getting it? So again, happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda show, where we are coaches and thought leaders. We have guests that join us, and we discuss the successes and challenges just inherent in the everyday world that we live in. Before I introduce us and the rest of our guests or the rest of our co-hosts, few housekeeping items. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and we want to be sure that we know what's in your cup. Be sure to like the video, share it, add your comments. If there's anything that resonates with you, we want to be sure that you're in on the conversation. Be sure, if you are going to comment, be sure that you're watching from the Coffee with Rhonda show page. It's www.coffeewithrhonda.com. That way we make sure that we get your feedback and we get your comments, and we can comment on those as well. So my name is Rhonda Y. Williams. I'm your host for the show. I'm an emotional intelligence strategist and coach, helping to shift leaders from overwhelmed to overjoyed, helping leaders shift from stuck to unstuck so that they can go about the process of creating a life they love. I do coaching, workshops, speaking, and connecting with leaders every day. I'm also the founder of the Dream Life by Design Mastermind Group. If you're interested, you can go to manifestmydreams.com, click the join button, and I will reach out with more information. Okay, so let's go through now and introduce our guests. So in my cup, I got plain old boring coffee this morning, y'all. I was busy this morning. I just had my mastermind group. I ain't had time to do nothing fancy, so it's just plain old coffee. Plain old coffee with me this morning. So let's go through now and introduce our co-host for the show. And let's start with you, Miss Roz. Oh, before we go to you, Roz, we have Mariska out there. Mariska said, I was going to say, I think Mariska's in France. Hey, Mariska, thanks so much for tuning in. And we look forward to hearing your comments. So, Miss Roz, good morning to you. Happy Saturday. And what's in your cup?
Well, my cup is way over there. And what I have in my cup this morning was, I have orange tea. I changed my tea out this morning, so I have orange tea, the lemon, and the honey. So I said I was going to change, break my little habit, trying to be a big girl. But as you guys know, I am Roz Jones, the CEO and owner of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers, where we provide 4 levels of care: sitter, homemaker, companion, home health aide, and certified nursing assistant. And you guys know the tagline: when you can't do it all, give us a call.
I love that. Be careful what you ask, because we might be calling you, Roz. King David says, King David in the house. Hey, King David, thanks for tuning in. All right. So, Marae, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's actually morning time for me, early morning on Sunday. I'm Marae Tulekima. I'm based in Perth, Australia, and I'm always very, very happy to be here, even if it's early in the morning. I'm the founder and the CEO of Marae Tulekima Global Leadership Organization, an organization where we really focus on individual taking control of their life, being the CEO of their life, and becoming the best that they can be. And I'm also the founder and CEO of MT Energy Resources, which is a consulting company in the oil and gas and energy sector. I coach, I mentor, and I speak as well. And so it's a very, very interesting space right now in my life. And welcome, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. So I am really excited about our conversation today. But before I even talk about that today, Marae, we're going to have to come to Australia and do the show. Right, Roz? What do you think?
I hope we can do the show from Australia next year. I'll be welcoming you.
Listen,
Oh, I love that. I would love that. I just need to get my passport and everything together. So Rhonda help me with that.
Yes. Oh, you know what, Roz? Yes, let's do it. Because listen, you don't have to tell me twice. I'll be on the plane. You'll be like, wait, I'm not ready yet. I'm like, come on, let's go.
You just have to wish it and then bing. Start planning.
Absolutely.
I'm sending out the energy now. Sending out the energy. Sending it out. Sending it out.
In the universe, it's gonna come. No problem.
It's so funny that y'all say that. So I was talking to this gentleman, and he said, you know, I hope I see you before the end of the year. And I said, baby, ain't no need to hope. All you got to do is ask and make it happen. Right?
Exactly.
What we hoping for? It's not.
But I will be in the US next year at some point. So I'll be joining you for a show special in the US with the three of us.
Awesome. High five, ladies. Let's do it. All right. So let's get our show going today. And I was taking the opportunity to share it on a couple of pages so that we can get some folks out there. If you're out there, please share the show, like the show, and we are going to get started with our topic. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about knowing your value, your value. So some months ago, I read the book by Mika Brzezinski, and I think it is called Know Your Value. If you have not read that book, specifically for ladies out there, if you have not read the book, and even there's a lot in it that guys can get out of it as well. It really is a great book. I was a little skeptical at first. I'm not exactly sure why. I think I just had some preconceived ideas that I needed to work through. But the book was very valuable in terms of talking about what we go through when we're trying to determine our value and our worth. Now, obviously, I'm going to just put this right up front. This is not about how much you as a person are really worth, right? Because that is valuable. You really can't place a number on that. We're talking about specifically in the workspace, whether you are employed or you're an entrepreneur. How do you determine your value? And then how do you go about making sure that you get that and that happens? So as we've been doing lately, we've been opening up with our own stories around worth and value. And so we're going to do that again. I've been really enjoying that. So let me share my story, a brief story that I have. So we'll just share our stories and then we'll move right into the discussion about how do you know your value and you get your worth. Some years ago, I was actually working as a liaison between our hospital organizations as an IT analyst. And I was a registered nurse, but I was being a bridge between the clinical team and the informatics team. Because, you know, they speak two different languages. So you really need someone who can help sort of close that gap for them sometimes. And so I was working at the corporate office as an informatics person. I got a call from a colleague who was in a hospital that I had moved from probably a little less than a year ago. I was located in San Antonio. I was working at a hospital there. And a colleague called me and said, hey, Rhonda, the director of nursing position is open. And I thought, well, cool, right? But why are you telling me? I had just moved to Louisville, Kentucky from San Antonio less than a year ago. And I'm not a DON, right? I've never been a DON before. So I wasn't really sure why she was telling me. And she said, I think you'd be great for the position. And I was thinking to myself, like, this makes zero sense to me right now. I'm not even there, number one. And then number two, I've never done this position before. So in my mind, going through all of this, and I really dismissed it. I was just like, well, whatever. We kept talking and catching up as friends. And all of a sudden, I went home and I shared with my family and sort of in a ha-ha moment, right? Ha-ha-ha, you'll never imagine the call I got today from a colleague about, the DON position. I said, she thought I should apply for the position. I'd be great. And my family said, yes, let's go. And so, wait a minute. I was just like, what is happening right now, right? We just moved here and they're like, yeah, but we hate it here. We want to go back anyway. You can do it, Mom, let's go. And I was like, oh my God. So long story short, through this process and dealing with my own emotions, but around the fact that I had never held a position like this before, and I wasn't even located in the area anymore. So all of this going through my brain. So long story short, I talked to him, what would I have to do to apply for the position? And the push for me was when the family was sharing that they were really unhappy and that they really didn't want to be where we were and they really wanted to move back. And so that gave me this sense that I really needed to at least try. And I wasn't really expecting it, but I did try for the position and I got the position. So in this transition and finding out, okay, now that I've got this position and I'm figuring out what all that means, I got to move back to San Antonio and all of this. Then I started looking at the salary. So in looking at the salary for this position, what they said to me is that you don't have any experience doing this position. So you're going to have to start off at the lowest level in terms of the salary range. So that meant a decrease in salary from what I was already making. So not only was it a decrease in salary, I was taking on responsibility for the largest department in the hospital. It was a lot more responsibility than I had. I mean, I was an IT bridge, an IT analyst, right? I'm taking the position of the director of nurses, overseeing all of the clinical operations, primarily in the hospital. And I couldn't quite wrap my brain around the fact that I was going to make less money, right? So I'm going from this position to this position, yet I'm making less money. So I had to process that in my brain. And while I tried to push back a little bit, and then this little voice said to me, you have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself. You haven't held this position before. I know it seems like you shouldn't have to take a cut and pay, but that's the rules that they're operating under. So what are you going to do? So I set this intention for myself. I said, okay, I'm going to take the position. I'm going to go back. I'm going to take the lower salary, but I am going to work my butt off. And in a year, I'm walking into that office and I'm going to say, I need more money, right? I am going to say, I need more money and here's why. And I set that intention from the very, very beginning. And you know, over the course of the next 4 years, of course, not only did I make up all of that salary that I was missing, I exceeded that salary, you know, by a significant amount, because it was my intention to prove my worth and my value and to say to them, I know I didn't have a lot of experience when I started, but I am going to work the heck out of this position and I am going to prove that I am worth every penny. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask for what I feel I should have. So that's sort of my little story around knowing your worth. And it sticks with me to this day that I had to take that step back. It really required that I take that step back so that I could take several steps forward and move forward. So that's my story. Roz, let's come to you now so that you can share your story around knowing your worth and your value.
I was listening to you as you were talking about that, because when I didn't value myself, my relationships reflected what I thought of me. You know, I was thinking about as you were talking about that, I said, you know, it was what I thought of myself is what I attracted.
Oh, wow.
Then when I shifted my mind and I began to understand what my value was, as I began to be more confident in who I was and knowing what I could bring to the table, then my relationships changed.
Right.
So then I knew that if I wanted to, let's say, if I wanted to be a nurse, I had to hang around nurses. You know, if I want to be a duck, I have to hang around ducks. So, you know, this is what we have to understand. When you start devaluing yourself, then, you know, my grandmother said, bottom feeders, you know, you hang with those people that are always sucking from you and also in that same pity party. Oh, woe is me, so and so and so forth. And, you know, so when you go to the next relationship, you're still carrying that poor self-value. Right. But when you shift and you understand and you know who you are, you understand your value, you change your mindset, you have a coach or whoever that may be, then once that happens, let me tell you, once you make that shift, you don't go back to those poor values. You you bloom where you are planted. You will make that change right where you are, and then you will see that those bad relationships will start to either change.
Right.
They won't have such a high priority in your life. They'll be, you might be friends with them, but from a distance. And then you will limit that conversation that's coming in.
Right.
But then you won't have that negativity coming in. As you begin to value yourself, then you start to pour in and invest into yourself. I want affirmations. I want to coach. I want to go to workshops. I want to listen to Coffee with Rhonda on the weekends. I need these type of things pouring into me so that my value continues to go up.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, just like stocks and bonds, the more you put in, the more the value goes up.
I love that, Roz. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome because it really is about, I love what you said about once you know that, once you decide on that, what that is for yourself, then everything around you changes, and then you are no longer willing to accept, right, what you used to accept. And that is a powerful point. And so, Mireille, what share a story for us and your thoughts around knowing your value?
It's quite interesting. When I listen to you two and me, it's been when I did the transition from corporate, having all this experience in the oil and gas and energy sector, and moving into entrepreneurship, coaching, and speaking. I actually got, a bit puzzled on how to, approach people in terms of when I do events, what value should I put on my events? Because for me, it was, okay, I have all this experience in this industry, but in a way, I have no experience in speaking, no experience in coaching. So I'm kind of a graduate. So I started to really giving value for free and, continuing this spiral. But at some point, I was actually stuck because I was keep giving this value for free. So for people, they didn't actually value what I was giving to them because it was for free. But for them, the value was not to the level that, they wanted. And I was talking to a more experienced person in the speaking and the, course creation industry. And the person sat me down and said, you know what, Mireille? You decide where you want to be. You decide the value that you want to be, the value that you want people to see in you. And then you make sure that when you've reached this, you've given this message out, you deliver to this level. So it starts with you deciding, this is where I want to be, this is where I think I am, this is the value I think I bring. And that's what I'm going to tell people is that if you want my service, if you want my knowledge, this is where I am. And there's no compromise with that. And then you make sure that you deliver at this level, and then you keep growing, going up with that. But you don't start and giving it for free, expecting people to value you higher than the free gift that you're giving to them.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Mireille, that is very powerful because I do think sometimes that, Mariska says, what Roz says, I so relate to it because I was like that. I used to devalue myself and my relationship would suffer from that. We expect other people to hold this high regard and this high value for us that we don't hold for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
How are others people supposed to value you when you don't walk your value? You don't talk your value. You don't demand and expect your value. If you're not expecting and demanding the value that you deserve, how can other people do that? And so, I think it's so powerful when you speak and you talk about knowing your value. I had the same thing. So I was in the corporate world for many years and doing my corporate work. And I know that work. But when I started to step out on my own and to do my coaching and my speaking and my consulting, what began to creep in was fear.
Yeah.
Because I had this fear. Let's just keep it 100, ladies, right? I had this fear where I was thinking, am I good enough? Should I charge this month? Am I really worth this? Should I do this? I don't know who's going to want to pay me for it.
Exactly.
You worry about what
for free, right, Roz?
Yeah, you worry about what other people would think.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. You were worried about what other people would say, but you know what I told somebody recently? I would rather be judged than be broke.
Exactly.
Wow. That is very true, but you do have to battle your own emotions around that, right? Because you'll find that they'll hold you back. And yesterday on the Billionaire Mastermind Forum, I did a little piece on your inner voice and managing your inner voice, because that inner voice is powerful. And most of what's holding us back is coming from inside of us. It's not really other people telling us what we can't do. It's us believing and listening to that inner voice that says, well, they may not believe, you may not stand up there. Listen, when I first started doing my workshops and getting up in front of these rooms full of powerful executives and physicians and all of these other people, that inner voice was still chattering in my mind. Listen, you're this little lady from the hood in Philadelphia, right? And who's going to listen to you? And they're going to be like, what's this little woman up there trying to talk to us about? But I had to push past that. And the more I pushed past that and leaned into it, and a part of my cue I take from the reactions and the responses, right? Other people in the audiences tell me what I need to know. If I'm not doing an effective job, they'll let me know that. I can see it in their face. I can see it in their body language. I can see it in their tone. But that's not what I was getting. What I was getting is, wow, this is really good stuff, which helped me build my confidence. Do you guys find that too? That, based on the response around you, you really begin to grow into understanding what your worth and your value is. Right?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Say again. I was losing you at some point.
Oh, I was saying that, do you find that for yourself as well, that you need to take the cues from people around you, and they will help validate, where you are, because they will be appreciative. They will be you're making a difference in their life. You are delivering for them. And that helps to quiet that inner talk where you're convincing yourself that you're not worth what you're charging for.
Exactly. I mean, we actually are our worst critic, and we tend to try to get validation from people around us. And that's actually where we got it wrong, because we start to listen to the voice outside instead of listening to our own voice. And by listening to people around us, we think that they're actually right. And we start to validate that by having the attitude of what people are putting in our head. And which is not our true value. And I always tell people sometimes, they're going to tell you, okay, you're starting something like when I was transitioning to entrepreneurship and mentorship and coaching, people start to tell you, yeah, but you don't have any experience in this area. And so you should just, value yourself at this level. And then you start to think, you say, okay, I mean, mentoring, coaching is about, what you've experienced in every dimension.
Right.
So it's just a process in some way. And you always have something to share. You always have something valuable in you. So you are the only one who can actually say, this is where I am. This is what I can offer. And this is what I'm capable of. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can do it for you because they've not experienced the same thing as you.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what they actually telling you, it's they're comparing it to their own experience, which is not valid for you. You are trying to give value. You had a certain journey. You've learned certain things. You had a certain education. Only you can package it and say, this is where I am. And then and then grow in the process. You're probably going to make failure because, but it doesn't mean that you don't have value to give.
Mm-hmm.
You'll make mistakes, But it doesn't mean that you have no value at all, because everybody makes mistakes. As long as you learn from those mistakes and correct and still growing and still giving value to people, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I love that. Mariska says, yes, that inner voice. Oh my gosh, sometimes we need to command it to shut up.
Exactly.
You're so right. Listen, that inner voice does not ever want to stop talking. It's gonna talk, right? But what you can do, and you probably will never shut it up. But what I was sharing the other day on the forum that I'm on in the mornings is, you don't need to shut it up. You need to manage it. You need to be the leader. Your inner voice works for you. If your inner voice is not supporting you and getting your goals and helping you be successful, then it's not supporting you and what you need. So you've got to manage it. And Mariska also says, stop validating all the voices in the society and start examining the inner intuition that tells us that we can do it. You can you put your mind to, and you can value your experiences. Murray, I don't know about you, but I have put a lot of money and time into myself. And I believe everything that I pour into myself, or for my clients, get all of that benefit. When I learn something new, they learn something new. When I get a new technique, I'm sharing that with them. I have spent upwards of $10,000 for a 3-day session to pour into myself. So why do people expect to coach with me for free? Why should people expect that?
And that's the debate.
Because we're girlfriends, right? Come on, girl. You're going to charge me the girlfriend rate, right? Are you serious? Who charged me the girlfriend rate when I was paying all that money?
And that's what people don't understand, is that, you don't advertise it, but you put so much money on being where you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an investment. It's actually like when you buy, you buy a house, you expect this investment to grow and to get some return from it. You don't expect it to say, okay, it's just, I just bought this house just to have fun, and then everything else, I don't expect to get a return from that. So it's the same with our investment in getting more knowledge, in growing as a person. Then when you give the service, then you expect somebody to value that. And the way to value that is to pay for it.
Exactly.
So you can't give it for free. I mean, at some time, you give your knowledge for free, but at some point, and you realize that when you give for free, actually people don't value it.
Right.
It's when you start to put a monetary value on it, and then they know that they're going to spend so much money. Then they start to pay attention, and then they start to really learn, whatever you give them. Otherwise, they just don't value it.
No, you're right. We have to put ourselves in a position where people understand. I think, for you to be able to charge what you think you're worth, I think you have to be clear on the value you're delivering. Right? You have to be able to show up and deliver above expectations. You've got to, I think, take a pulse and get information. So one of the things I'm trying to do a much better job of, because I would just work with people and think, okay, great, and they move on. I'm doing a much better job of trying to be consistent with getting feedback, testimonials, even video testimonials, or something, so that you have proof. They call it social proof, right? You have social proof of the difference that you make in the lives. So if you guys are coaches out there, if you're speakers out there, if you're feeling like you are not sure how to get your value, you've got to be clear about what you're bringing to the table, over deliver, be sure your customers are happy and satisfied, and do not let them go without getting some sort of a testimonial, a written testimonial. Ask them if you can use their initials, right? Post it on your website, put it online. You've got to do all of those things. But at the end of the day, in your heart and in your work, charge what you are worth. Yes, Ross.
Also, too, I'm glad you said it. As speakers. As speakers, too, we also have to understand our value before we go.
Yeah.
And I've been learning a lot of lessons this year about speaking that I wish I would have known before I started speaking. Before you go and speak, you need to find out who's in the room, how many tickets are sold, how many people are going to be there, what is the makeup of the group? Is it all female? Is it all male? Is it mixed? Is it divorced? Is it single?
Yep.
You know, what is their salary? What is the data that the people are collecting on the registration table?
Right.
So you'll know how to charge your value, and you need to find out how much the tickets are, because if they're charging, let's say $39 for the tickets,
Right.
then you know what you can charge may only be $250. But if someone is paying, let's say, you know, anywhere from $300 to $1,000 for a ticket, they understand more about investing. So then your value of what you charge will go up.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
these are important things I want people to understand, because as we go out as speakers, coaches, whatever, we forget to ask those basic questions about data. Data is so important. And that may not be your audience before you
Right.
go out and speak.
Exactly.
It may not be you. So if you go, you've lost value because you've lost time and everything else. I just wanted to put that in there since we're talking a little bit about speakers and value.
No, I think that's important. Let's build on that for a minute, ladies, because the whole thing where we go out and speak. Now, not every speaker is paid. Not every speaker is making thousands of dollars to speak. And so if you are going to be speaking, how are you going to recoup your investment if you're not being paid to speak?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
there's a lot of ways that you can get value back if you are a speaker. So number one, you need to be clear on, can you sell from the stage?
Exactly.
Can you sell from the stage? Because sometimes you sell from the stage and people are upset because, well, if she was trying to sell us her services, listen, I'm not being paid to be here. I'm giving a lot of value. And why is it a bad thing to say, by the way, I offer these services? I actually just had that happen to me because I was in one organization and I was speaking and I got the evaluations back and they were really good. And on one of the evaluations, one person put a comment, well, I don't think she should have been trying to sell her services. And I was thinking to myself, excuse me? Listen, my services are the reason I am here, right? I'm not just here because I have nothing else to do with my day on a Saturday, right? So,
Exactly.
so it's just important that we understand, here's the other way. And let's talk about this, how you can get value. If you are not able to get paid for that speaking event, are you going to get photos? Are you going to get video? Can you get testimonials? Because those are valuable too. But just to give away your services, just to give them away, it's okay. I get it if you're getting started and you're trying to feel out, you know, who your market is and, you know, really put your program together. You may want to do some free things. But at a certain point, if all you're doing is giving away, you are losing. Like Roz said, you are losing in the process. You're losing value. And that's not okay. You need to be able to stand up and expect to get value from your speaking and your coaching.
And like everything, you have to be strategic, it's, in life, in everything, you can't just, go there and don't have a plan, a purpose, and, no direction, and that's the same with speaking. When you choose your speaking engagement, you have to know what you really want from that and how you want your value to be reflected and what you want to take away from that. Because at the end of the day, and that's why I always tell people, it comes down to you. What do you want? What is your purpose? What do you want from that? And where do you want to be in terms of value? Do you want to pitch to people who have no money and not get paid? Do you want to pitch to people who actually need your value and are ready to pay for what you bring? Or do you want to just do things randomly? You have to decide. You have to decide, because at the end of the day, you are on the driving seat and you are driving your value up or down.
Oh my gosh. So that's a really great point. I want to touch on that point for a minute. Stephanie is out there. Stephanie Marshall. Good morning, Steph. Thanks for joining us. Mariska says, thank you for those precious tips, Roz. It's so interesting because you bring up another really great point when you're talking about you're in the driver's seat. You have to determine. So here's another thing that was keeping me away from really getting my value and really getting what I deserve to get based on the quality of my content, right? I had this thought initially that I can help the world. I can help everyone. No, everybody needs my help, right? And in doing so, right? Is that you, Roz?
I think we all start like that, and I think a lot of women actually.
It's funny because we want to help everybody, and so I had some coaches say to me, "So who's your target?" And I'm like, "Well, everyone needs this," and then they're like, "Okay, well, but who are you focus group?" And I'm like, "Okay, so here's me narrowing it down. So my focus is any woman who's a mother, has a job, has a career, is an entrepreneur, wants to be a coach, wants to be a speaker, right?" So I'm going, wait, I'm just listing every woman thinking that
probably a billion people.
I had to get so much clearer in who I was actually targeting. And that was hard for me because I felt like I was cutting somebody out. Wait, they're gonna suffer because they're not getting my good stuff, right? But it's not that you're cutting anyone out. It is really giving you the ability to hone. This is what I learned, people. You got a pen, write this down. By clarifying your target market, it allows you to speak directly to them. You can craft your messages in a quality way that when that person hears your message, they get it. What they call, your clients are able to self-select because you have done such a great job in your message that they automatically see themselves in it. I had to get clear that my target is leaders. Leadership is what I have done my entire life. I love helping leaders shift from overwhelmed to overjoyed, get unstuck in their own lives, decide what they want. That is my market. So, but Mariska says, "Oh, 2 years ago, that was me." Listen, that every woman in the world needs my service.
It was us, I think, at some point.
Exactly, all of us.
How did you guys decide who needs your services? And let's start with you, Roz. How did you decide who needs your services?
I decided because, they were kind of drawn to me, automatically.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go out and do, a poll. I didn't have to do a Nelson poll. I didn't have to do any quantitative, numbers or anything like that. They just kind of drawn to me. So I knew that my clients would be baby boomers who they were taking care of their parents, and that either they had dementia, Alzheimer's, or they were patients who had heart attacks or strokes, because a lot of times those heart attacks and stroke lead up to the dementia and the Alzheimer's. So that's how I knew that was my niche. Just quickly. It didn't take long. And some people, now let me put a disclaimer out there. Some people it takes a little longer, like Rhonda, had to come from the world down.
Really did.
but for some people, it happens, kind of quickly what your niche is, and particularly in caregiving. Like, I know I can't do children. I can't. My heart, I bleed, and I will be crying with the parents. And if you're a caregiver, you can't do all that crying. You have to be strong. Right. So I know I can't do children, but my calling to fulfill is the elderly population, the baby boomers, and so that's where I have been truly successful. Successful. So I'm glad that it happened the way it happened.
Right.
Even though I didn't know what a niche was or anything, it just happened. Right. And then when I finally got a coach, I realized that I already had a niche. I just didn't know what it was, but I just was blessed to fall into it.
That's awesome. Marae, before we have you share with us, how did you determine your clients? But before we do that, I want to share Mariska's comment. She said, "We get so tired of trying to solve everybody and anyone else's problem because of lack of clarity." And she says, "I also believe that clarity attracts the right clients." It really does. So let me just pause for a station break. If you guys are out there, if anyone's watching, please like the video. Please share the video. This is a message that someone else out there might find valuable and helpful. If they can help understand, number one, how they get their worth, how they figure out their client market, how to stand up and proudly go and say, here is what I'm worth, and I am unapologetic about that. So, so Mireille, how did you determine who your target market was?
I think for me it was a mixture of the two. So I had obviously the technical background, which was being a woman in a male-dominated environment. So you start to attract those type of, this type of niche. Women will actually want to do well in those areas. So they come to you because they see that you manage to navigate and be successful at the end. And there was also a click, because when I was working in those male-dominated environment, what I find out is that the soft skill part was actually not very strong. And I had that, and to a point where sometimes I had colleagues and even men, when they had problem at home, they would come in my office, and then my office was like, I don't know, as if it was a counseling office. And people were like, what's going on, Mireille, in your office? I mean, when people have problems, they come and sit down. And I had a chair, actually, in the doctor. They would come and talk about, their relationship with their children, their wives. It was insane. So I said, okay, maybe I need to combine the two and move also into the leadership and coaching and mentoring this particular niche as well, because it looks like they're struggling with this, but they're very smart in what they're doing, but they're really struggling with everyday problems. So that's actually how I shifted with adding, the coaching and the mentoring as well for this niche, and expanding as well for men as well, because they're actually the ones struggling really a lot. And then I was quite surprised that, those men that are strong and really always not showing any emotion would come and sit in my chair and start to talk about their problems. So it's been, both. It's been through my own experience, but also people coming to me and then being drawn to me because they really needed to talk about another dimension of the person, which is not just, the professional side, but also looking at the sensitivity that they have and the experience that they have in their personal life.
Wow, that is interesting. So you basically had like Dr. Mireille's office on your couch as you
my colleagues were like, what's going on in this office? I said, I don't know. This person just came, sat down, talked about the project first, and then started to branch out to its own struggle at home or with wife or children, and start to ask me what I think and what I can recommend. I'm like, I don't know. But then I started to be really good at it. And, that's how I started to grow as, in that area, and say, okay, I can do it. Then why don't I officialize it and become really a coach and a mentor and a leader as well in this area, helping people in my industry.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. I think it's really great when you come to that point within yourself where you really are feeling good about who you are, the work that you're doing, what you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. When you get past all of the can I do it, or should I be doing this, or should I be charging this much money? When you get past all of that, and at the end of the day, you say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm bringing to the table. So as we sort of go and make this next round, and we're going to move towards wrapping up here, I want to be able to say, what are the strategies that we want to share for people that are, looking to be able to be confident in charging what they're worth? Number one, knowing what they're worth. And number two, charging what they're worth. And how do you, really lean into that? And I want to use those strategies to give people an opportunity to build this into their own life. If you're struggling getting what you're worth, if you're struggling feeling like you can charge what you're worth, then we want to give you some strategies in order to help you do that. And I'm going to say, until Raj joins us, hopefully Raj will join us again before the end. But how about this, Mireille? If I'm going to start, and I'm going to come sort of from leadership perspective, because that's really a lot of who I coach. I coach a lot of leaders that are still working jobs and really trying to figure out how they move forward. And so I'll speak to it from that perspective. And if you'll come from the business end of it and, you know, the entrepreneur side of it, how do you, number one, know what you're worth? And number two, how do you ask for that? How do you charge for that? So from the career and work side, the first thing I'm going to say is keep track of your experiences. Keep track of your experiences. You have a lot in your toolbox, a lot in your experience background that you are probably not even taking credit for, right? There are things that I don't care if you filed, if you sorted files, keep track of that. There is somewhere that can be a valuable skill. What's the skill? You're good at organization, right? And that sort of thing. So make sure you are tracking everything that you do and keeping ownership of that. Number two, all year during the year, keep track of your positives, right? What did you accomplish? If you had a successful meeting or you led the signing of a new contract or you got 10 new clients, keep track of those things so that you can speak to them. So that at the end of the day, when it's time for you to really define, hey, should I be making at this level? Maybe your pay range, they've got a range and they pay at different levels and you're wanting to go to the next level. Well, prove to yourself that you deserve to be at that level by tracking those positives that you had all year long. And then you draw on those positives, you draw from your experiences, and then you can have the conversation. And I also say, you don't have to wait for your evaluation time. If you feel like you've outworked your current rate of pay and that you have brought such a clear and undeniable value to the organization that should be recognized, then go have the conversation, but be prepared to have the conversation. Don't just walk in and say, well, I think I work hard and I deserve to have this, right? Because all that's going to do is get you booted out of the office. So, but you're going to go in really clearly laid out with your proof in front of you to say, hey, I just wanted to have a conversation. I would like to ask for a salary increase. And here's what I'm basing that on, right? Here's the contracts I brought in, the number of new clients I brought in, the work I completed, you know, all of the positives I've contributed. And then be confident in having that conversation. In that conversation, avoid talking about the family and I got bills and my car broke down, so I need more money, because honestly, that's a personal problem. That has nothing to do with your employer, and they should not have to own all of your problems, all of your personal problems. But have a clear, concise strategy. I'm going to do a webinar, a free webinar for everyone on how to get a promotion. I did this webinar some years ago, and it's really great because there really is a secret sauce to how to get a promotion and move up in the ranks. And if you're interested in that, then in the comments, if you're watching this on replay, let me know that. So I'll make sure that I tag you when I launch that webinar for how to get a promotion. So that's what I would say in terms of that professional career aspect of knowing your worth and getting paid what you're worth. Speak lean into that. So Mireille, how from the entrepreneurial side of it and the business side, how do you know your worth and then get paid what you're worth?
I mean, it's, you know, you said, I mean, you have some good points, and you know, what I always tell people, it's about, you know, results. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you deliver to a certain level, that's your benchmark. That's basically your benchmark, and that's what you have to ask for. Because you know, at the end of the day, you have to have something tangible that cannot be disputed, and the results speak for you. So that's one thing. The next thing is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that, you know, and decide where you want to be, you know, where you want to be, at which level you want to play. And then when you decide that, you can start to, you know, work at this level and ask for this reward at the end of the day. And one thing that I always do is that, especially when I work with my clients, when they come to me and then, you know, we evaluate how, you know, what I'm going to teach them, or, you know, the coaching that I'm going to give them is going to deliver in in their life or in their career. That's what you benchmark from, the value added that they're gonna have. Then that's where you use that to calculate what to evaluate what you're worth.
Right.
Because if somebody comes, let's say they are broke, their company is completely, in the verge of completely, closing out, and then you manage to bring them back. You need to actually know what's the value of this company, and that's the value that you need to benchmark what you brought into this person, and not less than that. So it's really important to, like you said, to have those records and benchmark based on that, because that's basically what you know that you can bring on the table, and nobody can dispute that. And those proof, and like you said, testimonial proof, and everything that you've recorded needs to be put on the table to show people that this is the level where I am, and you can challenge that, but the results are there. There's nothing that you can't change that. So that's it speaks for itself. So I think those are the key things that I would say, is that, take over all the emotion and things like that. Look at the result. Those are the results, and that's what you're going to benchmark your value on.
I love that. I think that's so valuable, because if you are working with clients, if you're a coach and you're working with clients and you are able to save your client $30,000 because you help them read processes and strategy, you need to take credit for that, and somewhere be documenting that in your portfolio, that here's the value that I bring. So I think that's so valuable. Mariska said, do you think that your niche has something to do with challenges that you have overcome? I do think that there is a part of that. I think that sometimes does end up becoming your niche, some of the challenges that you overcome. But sometimes also, Mariska, your niche is just something that you have in your heart, something that you're really passionate about, and it may not be a specific challenge for you. You may have had a lot of other challenges to overcome, which then allows you to serve your niche, but your niche doesn't necessarily has to be the two. Many times you do see coaches that say, you know what, I was in an abusive relationship and now I coach women on how to get themselves out of that situation and how to stand up for themselves. And so sometimes they go together, but they don't always have to. And Mariska also says, powerful strategies. Thank you, Marae and Rhonda. Thank you so much for watching. So Roz is not able to rejoin us. And so thank you, Roz, for joining us earlier. I know she's got a lot going on today, and she's always just an amazing co-host. I just want to share before we wrap up that this is going to be our last live show for a while. We're going to go on a little bit of a winter break. I'm preparing to leave the country, and I'm super excited, but it's got me really busy. I'm going to be out of the country for a couple of weeks, and I don't want to try to, navigate everything around that. It's also holiday time, so it's a great time. Now, I want you guys right? Thank you. I'm going to have an amazing time, and then tune in, because I'm going to be doing a live stream to announce where I'm going. But we're also going to be doing some reruns of some old amazing shows. So you guys don't forget about us. We're still going to be here. We're not going away. And we are retooling and getting prepared for an amazing 2020 with Coffee with Rhonda. We're going to get even better, give you even more strategies, and be more excited. So I'm super excited about that. Marae, thanks for joining as always.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you. And we're going to come stronger than ever.
We are. You guys stay tuned. We're coming back strong. So thank you for watching. Don't forget, share the video, like the video, and add your comments. We'll respond to them even when we're off live. Have an amazing rest of your Saturday. Marae, get some sleep. Out there.
I'm gonna get shower and then go to sleep. It's gonna help me.
Absolutely.
It's been hot today as well.
Have an amazing rest of your day, or a great night's sleep, everyone out there. We'll talk to you next time on the next Coffee with Rhonda. Stay tuned for the reruns, because we'll be back stronger in 2020.
Thank you. Bye.